What is your name? And tell me a little bit about yourself.
My name is Michelle Jones Austin. I'm known to many as Lady Michelle, and I am a mother. I'm a Mimi, which is another word for grandmother. That's what my babies call me. I am 57 years old. I'm courageous. I am an intercessor. I'm an author. I'm a speaker. I am the founder of Heal Rebuild Unbreakable Spirits Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization for victims and survivors of domestic violence.
When I say domestic violence, what is the first words that come to mind?
Pain, suffering in silence, trauma, PTSD.
When was your first encounter with domestic violence?
My first encounter was when I was a child. I actually met my first bully before I even started school. And I know that we don't like to talk about our mothers being our abusers, but that was my story. I am an adult childhood trauma survivor. And it was really hard growing up in a home where my parents were abusive to one another. And once they separated, my mom began to take out everything on me, all of her frustrations, all of her hurts, her past pains, all of those things began to happen to me in the form of abuse.
How has your experience as a child affected you as an adult?
So as a child, I experienced a lot of abuse from my mom. And one of the things that really shaped me as an adult was losing my voice. And so I became very introverted because I had a speech impediment. And before I even got to school and became teased from the students at school, I was teased at home. And so this became a problem. I lost my voice. I lost the urge to speak up for myself. And when I started even getting older and going into the work world, it caused a lot of imposter syndrome. And this really became a problem for me because it was a trauma response. The trauma response was to shut down. The trauma response was to not speak up, and it caused a lot of problems when I was in relationships. As I continued to grow, the abuse just went on and on and on. And it really shaped the way that I held myself, the way that I carried myself, the way that I showed up. I no longer showed up with an authentic voice. I didn't show up owning my own voice. And these are the things that I have learned to do now. These are the things that therapy has really helped me to do. These are the things that when I began to, take classes and I began to get my 45-hour training for domestic violence. I got different trainings to allow me to be able to help others so that they wouldn't have to go through what I went through. They wouldn't have to stay there. They would know that they could move on. They would know that they could be different. They could be better than what the abusers were telling them. And oftentimes we listen to what our abusers tell us. We listen to those inner voices, and those voices tell us that we won't be anything. We won't amount to anything. And I'm so glad that I am able to do what I do now. I'm glad that I'm able to help others. I am able to direct others and influence others to be able to come out of abuse, and not just come out of it, but to thrive when they come out of it. One of the things that I did was, when I was raising my children, I thought that I would be different. I thought that I would not be as abusive to my children as my parents were to me. My parents, especially my mom, I have to always say that because I was living in a home with my mother. But I do have to say that my father was abusive as well because he was neglecting me. he did not come and save me from the home that he knew was abusive. Even though he was a police officer and he was saving the citizens in his district, he did not come to save me. So that was a problem. And so my children, when they were growing up, again, I've said before that I was emotionally unavailable for them and to them because of the things that I started doing. I started doing prescription pills because my parents, they drank. So I thought I was better or different from them, and I wouldn't do the things that they did. So I did something else. So it all turns out to be the same thing. If you don't get the help that you need, if you don't get therapy, if you don't get rid of those generational traumas, it will continue to go on and on and on. So I'm so glad that I'm able to even speak to you today and tell you that there is life after abuse, and that you can heal and you can thrive.
Do you believe that your domestic violence trauma has affected how you parented your children?
Yes, I do. As I've stated earlier, the things that were happening to me when I grew up, I thought that I could be better. I thought that I could do the things differently than my parents did, especially that my mom did. When I began to have my children, I thought that I wouldn't be physical with them. I wouldn't be emotional with them in an abusive way. I wouldn't, abuse them mentally. But it actually turned out to be the opposite. No, I did not beat them with an extension cord, but I threw shoes, So no, I did not scream and holler, but I did not cuss them, I should say, but I did scream and holler. No, I did not financially abuse them in a way that was done to me, but I was unavailable for them. I was unavailable for them in a financial way because I began to work 2 and 3 jobs, right? So that made me not be home with my children and not give them the things that they needed. So it really hurt my parenting. If you look back at what I went through, I did the things to my children by not being emotionally available for them, and that caused abuse and the rearing of my children.
Have you ever experienced domestic violence with a partner?
I did. So when I met my ex-husband, I was already, my self-esteem was low. It was in the gutter. So he didn't have much that he had to do to get me to be submissive to him, to finish doing the abuse that he wanted to do. And so we began to trauma bond because we both came from broken homes. We both came from abusive homes. And so we thought that we could, make it work with each other. We thought that we could lick each other's wounds and be happy with each other. But 2 broken people can never make that happen, because if you're unhealed, you're going to continue to hurt each other and hurt other people.
Through your experiencing domestic violence, why did you stay?
I stayed because of a false sense of love. I thought that my love could fix him. I thought that my love could, keep him from hitting me. I thought that my love could keep him home and not stay out all night with other women. I thought that my love could make everything be okay, and it would stop him from doing drugs and stop him from all of the bad things that he was doing that was affecting our home. And even before that, when I was at my home with my mother, I stayed because I was a child. I couldn't leave, but I was in an abusive home. So even when I got out of that home, when I got older, you still are connected because of that bond. And so that trauma, you kind of go back to it because you love the people. So that's why I say a false sense of love.
What have you accomplished since moving from a victim to a survivor?
I have started my nonprofit organization to help others. I remember when it was me. I remember when I was looking for a way out and I did not. I didn't know of all of these agencies that are out here now because back then we didn't have social media. We didn't have ways of finding out what was going on. You had to do it by word of mouth. And if you're going through abuse, you are not going to speak up and tell people what you're going through. So I have an organization now that I help victims and survivors to actually become thrivers, to move past being a survivor. And I also have a domestic violence group at my job that I help the associates with resources and information.
What advice would you give a woman or a man who is experiencing domestic violence right now?
I would say look at the signs. And when you see the signs, don't ignore them. Oftentimes, we are afraid. We're afraid to communicate what we want. We're afraid that if we speak up, that the person is going to leave us. We are afraid that, no one's going to love us like this person, like we think this person is supposed to love us and like they say they're going to love us. But I would tell you, do it. Run. Don't stay. Don't compromise. Don't settle. Protect your peace at all costs.
And my last question is there life after domestic violence?
So there is life after domestic violence. As I said, I went through a lot as a child, and it is my absolute goal to help people to overcome domestic violence. So that is why I have the organization that I have. That is why I do the things that I do. I have podcasts. I do magazines. I get the information out to people any way that I can. If you would have told me that I would be doing this 30, 40, 50 years ago, I would have told you no, I wouldn't be doing this because I didn't think that I could speak up. I didn't think that I could speak out. I didn't think that I could use my voice to help others. But that is what I do now, and I love it. I get so much joy out of helping others, even if it's just one person that I help to get away from domestic violence is the best thing. And so there is life after abuse. There's a life after this trauma that we go through. You can do well. You can be amazing, courageous. I always say that I am no longer a victim. I'm more than a survivor. I am a thriver. And that's what I do in my life. I thrive.